What's up everybody, it's Kevin here. It's been about 2 weeks since the last build video, so I just want to get everybody updated on what's been built and accomplished since then. Remind people or let everybody know that I do have a full-time job, and building the airplane has kind of been just in my free time. So of course it doesn't go as fast as I want it, or I can't do as much of it as I want. So it's been 2 weeks. I'll show you the progress I've made. It hasn't been a whole ton, but it's something. And I also want to go over the tools required to build a Highlander, more or less the specialty tools. So we'll start with that. I kind of have all the aircraft tools here laid out on the workbench. Anything I don't have or something I need specialty to put something together, aircraft related, I usually buy it from Aircraft Spruce. Just go through of what I got here. This is a aircraft rivet squeezer with the yoke and the squeezers here. Got a tubing bending tool. Flaring tool for tubing. This is going to be for the fuel tubing. Cam lock installation tool. This is torque seal to mark. A little picture of it. You can put a line on the bolt and the nut, and you can see if it has come loosened at all. That's good. That's good for pre-flight inspection. I got Clecos pliers here, Clecos, and then some clamps that the pliers engage. I've got all 1/8 inch size Clecos. That's pretty much rivets for the entire Highlander is 1/8 inch size. Oh, up here we got a 20 hole rivet spacer, and this thing is kind of like an accordion. It can expand or contract, and it evenly spaces out holes so you can drill your rivets. They're on the top there. And we got a countersink drill bit. This is a swedging tool. Use that to swedge the flying wires in the tail. Got a deburring tool. We got a set of reamers here. So after you drill a hole, say for a bolt, like a 1/4 inch bolt, an AN4, you would go through and then ream it out. It's a little bit cleaner of a hole then than what a drill bit would leave you with. Got a halfway decent pipe cutter, a nice set of pop rivet gun, safety wire pliers, safety wire, and I got a drill and a driver, good set of drill bits. And I wanted to show everyone how I don't have the epoxy caulk gun because that's a few $100s. So what I've done is I've made this, fastened 2 dowel rods together on a piece of aluminum, and this is the epoxy. You got part A, part B, equal parts is what you need. And that fits in there as so, and then you use a long quick clamp to squeeze it all together. And what I do is I end up squeezing it in a plastic, I think that's a 1 quart freezer bag, and I mix it up in the bag and I squeeze it all into a corner. And what I do is I cut the corner of the bag off and I kind of apply it like you would frosting on a cake. So over here I got some books that you can get from the EAA. They're written by Tony. I've read this one. I'm just about done with this one, and these two here are firewall forward and engines, and every bit of information in them is just great. And then if you haven't already, you should go to wildwestaircraft.com and get their stuff. I told Steve and his wife Kathy I'll need one of everything of what they got. Got a t-shirt, hat, and stickers. Well, now we'll go through the more or less average tools you need to build an airplane, not so much the specialty aircraft tools. Got a vise here. I definitely did not spend very much money on this. It's an okay vise and it works for now. So I'll just show you how I got my workbench set up. Got hammers here first, Allen wrenches, screwdrivers, pliers, cutters. We got safety equipment in the middle, safety glasses and hearing protection, tape. Got saws. I got some cable cutters. And then over here we got squares, straight edges, levels, and then lots of clamps. You will need all kinds of clamps to build an airplane. I've got quite the collection of clamps here. And over at the end of the workbench, I don't really use all this stuff all that often, but actually I don't even think I've used my drill press yet. I do use the belt and disc sander for sanding aluminum or wood parts. The little 4 or 4.5 inch angle grinder is great for cutting out parts, and then the 6-inch benchtop grinder for grinding parts or sharpening tools. Those are about all the power tools you need. So next I want to show you some of the specialty tools that I've made to help me build this airplane. First we got over here is the, I guess you'd call it the stand for the rotisserie. And right now I've got the bracket that hooks up to the rear of the fuselage. So how this works is you can spin the fuselage around and then lock it down and it will lock in position. And this is what I use to paint it, and it's also what I will use to fabricate the fuselage when I put fabric on it. I've got a board across the top, and it's on the plate that wobbles a little bit. And what I do is I set this under the end of the wing when I slide the wings into the fuselage, so I can set the wings all by myself. Another great thing that I've made is these stands for the fuselage. Now, I chose to put it on stands, and it's about, the top of the airplane's about, just a little bit higher than my chest. And it's just great for working on. I think it's a great height. If it was on the landing gear, since it's a bush plane, it'd be way too tall to work on stuff. So what I did is I built a stand and engages part of the rear tailwheel suspension. There's just a rod that goes through. And then for the front, engages part of the main landing gear suspension. And I actually made all this out of the tubing that the aircraft got shipped in from the crate. So I cut a bunch of it up, and it's just leftover tubing, and I cut it and welded it together. But that's been good to have, and a majority of the airplane is going to get assembled while it's on those stands, just because it's at a great height to work on. So now let's get into some of the work I've got accomplished on the airplane. So I've been locating hinge points and bell crank points on the flaps and ailerons. And what we're looking at here on the workbench are the 2 flaps. So this would be a hinge point. It gets riveted and glued, and right now they're just held in by the clecos. I have yet to glue them and rivet them. In the middle we have the flap bell crank. It's also a hinge point. So the hinge will go through that bronze bushing, and then you'll have your control cable to this point. They're upside down on the workbench right now. So we're looking at the bottom. And then we got one more hinge point at the end. I've got a little sample of the aileron is on the left, leading edge, and the flap leading edge is on the right. So everyone can see the differences in the profile. I got very sleepy dogs today. Pretty much no different than any other day. Over here we have the ailerons. They're very similar to the flaps, the way the hinges and the bell cranks are. The only difference in the ailerons is you have part of the bell crank sticking. This would be above on top, and this would be below. We're looking at them upside down here on this cart. And that's because, unlike the flaps that just go down, ailerons move up and down. So they got hinge point at the end, bell crank somewhat in the middle, and another hinge point at the other end. So if we look on the airplane here, I've got the brackets just clamped in place, so everyone can see here how the hinge points and bell cranks get attached to the aircraft. So here's the hole is your hinge point. The bolt's going to go through there, and that's where it goes through the bronze bushings on the flaps and ailerons. And these get attached to the tail of the wood rib there. It's going to get, I think, epoxied and riveted. So I slid the Apex engine out. Just give you guys an update on this. I'm actually not sure if I'm going to be using this actual engine, because when I talked to Edge Performance at Oshkosh, They had said they're probably only gonna send out fully assembled, complete, ready to run engines. And they said they might do some type of program where the customer will be responsible for sending them a core engine, so they'll have something else to build. They've been posting some stuff on Instagram. I think they're actually putting together their second Apex right now, and I was asking them who was going to get that engine, and they weren't sure yet. But I also asked them when I could send them a deposit so I could make sure I get in line for getting one of these engines, and they said it'll probably be in about a month or so. So I'm looking forward to that.